We're live, right?
We are here. It's good to see you, and Josh as well. But Marianne, it's so good to see you,
everybody. Welcome to the Haunted Highons panel, where we're going to talk about the Haunted Highons miniseries, The Darkness Rises, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by the creative team that's rounded up 3 Ringo Award nominations, which will be happening tonight. By the way, who's excited? So we're on the screen here and let everybody introduce themselves. Mary, would you like to start and introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, everyone. I am the drawer of Haunted Highons and also one of the nominees for the Ringo Awards.
Best artist nomination.
Yes, best illustrator.
Yes.
And Dirk, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Dirk Manning. I am the writer of Twisted Haunted Highons, and we are also nominated for Best Humor Comic 2020, which some people have been kind of joking about that I'm mainly a horror writer, and then there's awards for the humor comic, but I guess I'm funny and scary, I suppose. So, and hello everyone out there. It's good to see all of you.
And Drina, tell us about you.
I'm the one that keeps everyone in line. I'm the editor. That's what I do.
Thankless task.
What?
A thankless task at times.
I'm very grateful for my team.
For those who don't know, Haunted Highons, if you were watching this panel because you heard about the Ringo Award nominations and you wanted to check this out and see what it's all about, the comic series features the rap duo Twisted, and their fan base was extremely excited when this comic was announced. And at first, at Source Point Press, we just released a one-shot comic, and that blew up so big that we immediately followed it up with a mini-series called Haunted Highons: The Darkness Rises. Before we talk about The Darkness Rises and what led to all these nominations and this amazing fan base who's given this comic so much support, do you want to talk a little bit about how the one-shot came about, Dirk, and how this whole thing started in this relationship with Twisted?
Yeah, it's a crazy ride. A lot of this is due to Gary Reed, is the one of the founder of Caliber Comics, things like that. I had taken my book Right or Wrong to Gary Reed over at Caliber. So Gary knew who I was. I was a known quantity. Obviously, I'd been doing comics for years with Image and Devil's Due and things of that nature. And he contacts me one day and says, "Hey, I've got this band that's interested in doing a comic." And he goes, "And I know, you're a big music guy. I did music journalism for years as well." And he goes, "I think you'd be a good fit for this." And the band, of course, as we all know, was Twisted. So what originally happened was, I ended up talking to George Villakis, who, again, is one of the unsung heroes of all of this. He's Twisted's manager. So, George, if you're out there, we appreciate you. And basically, we were coordinating me writing a one-shot based on it was kind of originally an idea for a screenplay almost by Jimmy and Paul. If I'm not mistaken, Paul was the one who actually had the concept for it. They gave it to me. Worked it out. We're turning into a comic script. We did some tweaks, things like that. And this is where it gets a little sad for a moment, so I apologize. Gary passed away unexpectedly as we were developing the comic and things like that. And it really put a lot of things up in the air, and we had a lot of decisions to make at that moment about what to do. Obviously, as you well know, oh, thank you, Josh. All the comments down there, you guys are wonderful. And so, as you know, Josh, I'd known Source Point Press. I knew all of you, Michigan-based publisher doing amazing work. So what I did was basically, when Gary passed, I went to George, went up to M&E's office and said, "Hey, look, we don't know what's going to be going on with Caliber." I will say Caliber did end up continuing, but at the time knew it was going to happen. And I said, Gary mentored this guy named Travis McIntyre, who runs his own publisher called Source Point Press. Maybe this could go there. And I said, Source Point Press is a Michigan-based publisher. They're making a lot of good moves. They're doing a lot of really good stuff. they would take care of you guys. And again, I had relationships with other publishers and things like that, but I knew SourcePoint would be the way to go. So long story short, George said, okay, I trust you. I have no choice because, it's you and I at this point. I went to Travis and I said, hey, I got this book. We're lining up this one shot with Twisted. And I said, we're really, though, this has enough to be big. Twisted's fan base is huge. We really should try to get this book. This is a book that could get us national. You could help us move towards national distribution, be a really big deal. Travis did his thing that he's famous for. It worked out. We launched the one shot at New York Comic-Con, and then he went into the miniseries after that. And here we are, Baltimore Comic-Con, a couple years later. Just amazing.
I remember the day that that George first came and met Travis and I. It was at a convention, and he kind of scoped us out. We gave him some books. We talked about about this idea, and I'll be honest, I had mixed feelings because it was so soon after Gary's death, and he passed away right between conventions. We had just
before New York
in Boston, got back from Boston. And I believe we had a convention the following weekend where, if I remember correctly, you had the finished script ready to show him and talk to him, go over with him. And just like that, he was gone. And just days after I'd just spent a whole weekend with him and traveled with him. And it was so unexpected. So the whole thing was kind of, it didn't get off to a running start. Everything, all the groundwork was there, and all these relationships were kind of positioning themselves into place for what became such an amazing partnership between Magic Ninja Entertainment and SourcePoint Press and everyone involved. It was kind of a strange series of events.
Yeah, and furthermore, what's interesting, and I think this is where Mariana comes into the picture. Mariana and I had been volleying back and forth about different ideas for projects to do. And Mary, you could probably speak to this a lot more than I can, but you and I pitched several different ideas and things like that. And Mary's amazing, obviously. She's nominated for Best, Illustrator for the Ringo Awards this year. I think your talent is unquestioned. But nothing was clicking the right way. And then this opportunity came up with Haunted Highons. And do you want to talk about, I guess, your take on all this stuff, how this all went together? You'll tell the story probably a lot better than I will. So
for me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost connection because we're a third world country. So the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Mariana's in Italy and joining us from Italy. So just I guess what your side of the story about how you got involved with Haunted Highons, because you and I talked about doing a couple things together and nothing was clicking the right way. And then this crazy guy came to you with this idea for this comic with these rap rock stars in it.
She's frozen.
Oh, Mary, you're frozen.
She freezes in and out.
I can say this while we wait for Mary to reconnect. Her early concept sketches were phenomenal, and it was almost like right out the gate she had this vision for the look of it. Can you talk a bit more about that, Mary?
Oh, well, Dirk just asked me to draw a small character design for Twisted, and so I was like, who the guys are? and I checked everything and just made a couple of sketches, and they loved it. And I was really, really crazy about that because I never had a connection with them. But with that sketch, I just made something for them, and they loved it, and I was so excited.
And to be fair, I think Mary is being a little humble here.
Yeah.
I messaged you, if you remember, and I was like, I'm going to see the band at this concert. It was like 24 or 48 hours or something like that. I don't remember. It was like really quick. And
it's being really quick.
Yeah. Because when Gary, passed and stuff like that, or no, actually it was slightly before then, I realized that Mary would be the artist, but I was like, can you get me some sketches in like 48 hours, just something to show what you can do, because I knew how
Yeah.
talented you were. And then she did these two
Also-
amazing sketches, and I took them to Twisted on the bus, and their jaws just dropped. You know,
I remember Twisted saying, no, Paul is not the big one. Jamie is the big one. Because I draw them bigger.
yeah.
But you managed to capture their personalities visually right away. It was like out the gate. Obviously, you had a good script to work from with the humor and everything, but you did a really good job capturing their personalities.
Thank you.
And then later, into when the miniseries, there was an opportunity to get so much more. You got all these other Magic Ninja Entertainment, entertainers in the comic series, and it was so much fun watching all of these characters kind of come to life after I've met them and seen performances and videos and stuff. And now it's like, wow, you just nailed it.
Thank you.
About The Darkness Rises, that is largely based in the album The Darkness, right? So
Yes.
how at this point in time, I mean, the discography is so large. There's so many fantastic Twisted albums. I have to say The Darkness is actually my personal favorite album. And I think FTS is such a great song that's so hard to top. I don't think it's ever, that's one of my favorite tracks from them. How did it come about deciding to take some of the lore from that album and build around it versus some of the other albums or some of the other storylines you might have dove into? Was this something that Twisted came up with, or was it your idea?
Twisted, again, I think more directly were involved hands-on with the original one-shot, which was based on kind of a loose screenplay idea by Paul, by Monoxide. So when it came time to flesh this out, to me, I'm always a start with the end in mind type person, so it's like, I could even tell you eventually, should we be allowed to follow this through to its full term, how Haunted Highlands will end one day, And to me, Darkness Rises was just a beautiful starting point, because I think there's so much mythology in that album, and there's just so much to play with. And this whole idea of, there's this darkness out here and they're ghost hunters and things like that. And, now there's just two of us. So I don't know. I don't know if I scared Josh away or what. So, which is funny, because I was going to say, because this is where we actually got involved in bringing Drina Joe into the process there.
What happened?
And, Joe, we lost you for a second.
Oops.
Oops. What did you do with Mariana?
That one wasn't me.
Mary's in Italy. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're down here.
I am.
Josh looked guilty. I was like, why am I on the screen by myself? Welcome to the internet, friends. Welcome to the internet. No. So for me, that was just that album, and the lore put forward in that album really allowed me to lay the groundwork for ideally what would be a lot more stories and set up the conflict and things like that. Establish Felicia more as a character, which is where I think Drina Joe comes into the equation. Obviously, knowing that we were all going to move forward with this. Magic Ninja was happy with it. Source Point was happy with it. The fans were happy with it. We had really broken through, even off that one shot, the idea that this was a vanity book. Because I think a lot of books based on celebrities sometimes suffer from the idea of the celebrity has to be shown in the best light all the time. And one of the things I love about Twisted is they don't mind, man. They let me mess with them and stuff like that, So
poke a lot of fun.
Yeah, poke a lot of fun, and we're laughing together. We're not laughing at each other. We're laughing with each other. And Twisted, for all the wickedness and all the darkness and all that stuff that goes on, they're funny. So this is, I guess, where then, Drina Joe comes into the picture, because I knew taking this book forward as a miniseries and things like that, I wanted to have a strong editor on board to look at this from an outside perspective and continue to build out this mythology.
And obviously, So I totally agree that album is a really great place to start building it out, because I think they don't get enough credit for having some of that lore built in. There are some storylines and some things happening, characters and weird stuff. There's a lot to build on. But as that miniseries progressed, each issue kept raising the bar, and the story kept getting bigger and crazier, and then obviously more characters pulled into it. Now, obviously, Mary, that must have been work for you. You had to really get to know a lot of different characters. The one shot had a much smaller cast, and the Dark Rises, you had a lot of people to draw. Did you? And did you spend a lot of time listening to the music while you worked?
Oh yeah, I listened to every single album of them, and it's been quite easy actually to draw them, because after the Twisted ones, because Twisted have been really hard for me at the beginning to draw, but the other characters actually were easier.
Really?
And especially Blaze.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would go, you and I remember, Mary, would talk about Jamie especially giving you problems.
Oh yes.
And
because of his head. I know it sounds crazy, but his head is really, really hard to draw.
yeah, and eventually it just came down to, like, we just gotta get the essence of the character. I mean, we gotta get the essence of them. And then Mary just nailed it.
I tried. They're not actually hyper realistic, because I'm not able to do hyper realistic, but I like to find the expressions of them, the funny part of them, of the characters.
Yeah, well, and that's it, because they're funny. These guys are so funny.
Exactly.
And obviously, when you listen to albums like The Darkness and things like that, there's a strong horror element to it. But if you ever watch them live, or you see them in concert, or you get a chance to meet them somewhere and talk to them even for 5 minutes, yeah, that's exactly right, Paul. All the hell, they're fine. We wanted to capture that too. Again, I cut my teeth as a horror guy, and I'm a horror guy at heart, and I think Jimmy and Paul are as well. But the flip side of horror is comedy. So it all blends together. And then as we started to build out the whole book and build out the whole universe and things like that, again, giving big props to Gina Joe for helping guide this ship and start to be involved. Travis talked about how it got better every issue, and a lot of people did. And we brought in an editor, which is a big part of it. We did the one shot off the seat of our pants, but we brought it.
Sorry, I'm just
I get to know. Pardon?
Did you have any struggles helping kind of guide this through? Because I mean, there was a lot packed into that miniseries.
Yeah. Well, I got to know them. I got to know Twisted through the comic. So I was completely blown away when I actually met them in person, because their characteristics were so captured in the comic.
They're like
personalities
comic book characters.
Yeah, they are comic book characters. So it's really a joy to sit with them and talk to them and just hang out with them. And you can bring that personality into a storyline, but it's already there. They were made for this. And they're funny. They constantly crack me up.
So one of my favorite things about them and this comic series is how involved they've been, like, while still being super respectful of the creative team, having the control over kind of coming up and working out these ideas and working out all these kinks. They're there to support and help along the way and give guidance, while still giving some freedoms. And they're really involved in the best ways. I mean, we've done multiple signings with them at comic book stores and at conventions, and it's been an absolute hit every single time. And I remember thinking, okay, if you get too far outside of the Midwest, maybe a signing isn't going to be as big of a success, especially if it's in a massive convention with loads of other signings and like huge celebrities. And I would never been so pleased to be wrong. I'm just the fan.
I know what Dirk is thinking about San Diego.
Tell the story. Tell the story. This is all you. That's your home turf.
Yeah, San Diego. I've been doing San Diego for a long time. And I had mentioned to Dirk, like, I don't know, what was it, 3 weeks before San Diego?
Yeah, we only announced.
It's so cool if Krista could come to San Diego. But just saying it, because it can never happen. I mean, tickets are sold out in November the year before. Somehow, magically, Dirk or George or whoever it was got everyone together to come to San Diego. And then it started like, oh crap, coming to San Diego. I didn't know anybody on the West Coast that had even heard of Twisted. So that made me very nervous. And you can't even get to San Diego Comic-Con unless you're on a trolley or you walk in, because they locked down a mile of the city to prevent that. So we were on the trolley and we get off the trolley and all of a sudden you're like, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, everywhere, far and wide, and like the relief just washed over me. Like
fans came out in droves. Yeah.
And then later they admitted the same thing. They were like, we were worried too, and then they were just excited about it. And then the line for Twisted was it was super long. It was like wrapped around the booth and around the corner, and it was fantastic. And we got in about an hour early. And people were waiting at the Funko Pop area because they knew Twisted would be coming by. They were like waiting there to look at them and get pictures of them and stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And it was so funny too, because like when everyone met to get on the trolley, so you have to imagine it's like 8 a.m. and everyone's just like, we all come like staggering up from our different locations. So there's Jamie and Paul in their war paint and the makeup on the trolley with Dustin and George and Adrina and myself, and we're all just sitting there like in the trolley.
That's crowded. I mean,
crowded, and no one's saying a word. Because whatever, you got like cosplay all over and stuff like that and all that, and we're all just sitting there kind of like, And I kept thinking, and I'm sure they're thinking like, oh God, I'm gonna get in this trolley and people are gonna be like, like fawning or whatever.
Nothing.
No, nothing. So then when we get off the trolley and there's like the huge crowd of people, immediately like the whoop whoop started. And as soon as we got off the trolley, I'm like, and even like Jamie and Paul, I mean, again, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. Yeah, and like people were staked out throughout the convention because they knew where we would be, and we had the boss leading us all around and telling us where to.
Yeah, that was hilarious because I'm 5 feet tall. They're all very big, sizable guys. And I'm like, you got to follow me. You got to follow me. So they finally put Dustin in front of me. And they couldn't even find me in the crowd. So I'd lift my hand up and be like, I'm over here. But I finally put Dustin in front of me and kind of like held his belt loops. Like, turn here, turn there.
They'll clear the crowd.
Was it Thunder like Master Blaster and Mad Max?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
You have this daisy chain. I'm like, Paul, I know you're not gonna like this, but hold my hand. Here we go. We're all going. That did not happen, for the record. We were not all holding hands through the convention.
I think Jamie? I think it was Jamie that said I was like a drill sergeant. Stay in line or I will shoot you. I will leave you behind. But I've been there so many times. I know the craziness of that con. It's even an hour early. It is shoulder to shoulder.
So
yeah. Sandy, and it's funny too because I think, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we announced New York Comic Con, and then Mariana, and by the way, although he's not here with us, huge props to Alessandro, who's also nominated for a Ringo Award for Best Colorist as well. Yeah. So both of you. But we announced the team was going to be at New York, I think after tickets were already sold out.
Yeah.
you know. So again, it was one of those things where it was like,
right? Are they
you know, it's not like everyone can come crash the gate because tickets were sold out. But when me and Mariana Alessandro did the signing, again in New York, line wrapped around the freaking booth and things like that, you know.
Yeah, it was huge.
Their appeal is great. They have a lot of fans, a lot of loyal fans, and they have one in me now because I love their music. I love them. I think they're great.
So really quick story. We kind of touched on this recently for those who watch our live auctions, but we were doing Rock and Shock, and Twisted was there. They were a guest at Rock and Shock, and they were playing, performing, because Rock and Shock is it's an incredible event where there's a concert venue one block from the convention hall, and one ticket gets you into both, and there's music at all weekends at the same time as the convention, so you can go back and forth. And this was a great opportunity because Twisted was going to come in. They were going to stop by the booth. They're going to do a signing at the convention and then go perform. And
this one, the one shot, I think it was right after New York Comic Con when the book first debuted, right? Okay.
So it was just the one shot, and we had a handful of variants and sketch covers, and we were unpacking the boxes, and we had, I think, 1 box, 2 boxes, pretty small boxes of the one shot, and then went, where's the rest of them?
Oh no.
And it was Friday. Twisted was showing up on Saturday. By noon or 1 or something, really early in the day on Friday, we had sold out of every single thing we had. And there was a line of fans because we had a big banner. I knew exactly where we were. And they were like, what do you have? What do you have? I'm like, nothing. I'm so sorry. I was worried sick because they were not happy. Not Twisted, the fans. The fans were not happy at all with us. And we definitely screwed up on the packing. And this turned into a big ordeal. But it just showed how rabid the fan base was even over there in, Massachusetts. There's nationwide, the fans are loving this comic series from day one. And of course it was great, that night, George got me into the concert and, got to hang out and watch, and it was such a phenomenal live show. They are pros. They light up a stage. It's incredible. So much more than just music too. It's practically like stand-up comedy. Half of the night too. They have all these skits and stuff in between, and they just know how to entertain. And it was a ton of fun. Great weekend, despite all of the people who were angry that we sold out of books.
Well, and it's funny too because, and I got to bust Travis's chops mildly on this. After New York, I said, take as much as you can. I go, take everything you can. Yeah. I'm like, Travis, I said, because this was, again, still fresh in the relationship. I said, everything. I said, take everything. You're going to take a couple boxes. And you guys ended up selling the banner even, didn't you?
We almost did. We were trying, yeah. And I eventually caved and said, all right, fine, I'll put a number on it. And it didn't quite happen, but yeah, we almost did. It was, it was something.
Yeah. And what's funny too is, I think a lot of, talk about the music aspect. I think a lot of people have an impression of Twisted from when they started 20 years ago versus where they are now. And if you listen to their new single Rose Petal, it's burning up on freaking Octane on, Sirius Radio. It's blown away the rock charts. Twisted is being featured on the Knotfest website. And, so they're the evolution of their music. And I think something that's so cool is the comic people now read the book and say, wow, Twisted, they seem like pretty cool guys. Okay, I'm going to check out, Generation Nightmare or the Darkness or, continuous evolution of Life's Question Marks. And they hear a band that is not the band that maybe they knew 20 years ago,
Absolutely.
And I said, a Rose Petal, that new single, oh my God. I mean, it's
the Rotten movie soundtrack has introduced some people to it too. I've had numerous people hit me up and go, who is doing all the rap music in the Rotten Tail movie? And I said, hands down, all the rap, like rap rock songs you hear on the soundtrack are all Twisted. And they were like, no way. I had no idea. They were like, this is so good.
Mhm.
And it's
Well, I was watching the Super Bowl, and their song was the Kansas City Chiefs theme song.
That's right. Yeah, they were on that.
What? Like, my
wow.
two favorite things, twisted in football.
Convention appearances, that kind of leads us to Astronomicon. So for those who don't know, Astronomicon it's a newer convention in Michigan that is held by Magic Ninja Entertainment and Twisted. So all of the Magic Ninja Entertainment guests and are there. So you have Twisted and everyone else on the label as guests of the show. Plus, it's a really great kind of crossover convention with a lot of horror movie stars. And because of the timing that this convention was born, we've all been part of it since day one. Like a small part of me feels like that's my con too, because Source Point's always been such a big part of it. We've all been really involved, and the comic has been there. And every single year of Astronomicon so far, we've had something for the fans, and they come looking for it and on day one. And I've been to countless conventions, and there's not one I can put my finger on that's quite like Astronomicon. And the first year, it was just everything was set for it to be a disaster. There was a snowstorm that had blocked out so many of the roads leading up to it. The airport was shutting down. No cabs would take anyone to the convention. And we're there setting up. I luckily lived pretty close to it, so it wasn't a huge deal. But even my drive there was pretty slippery and dangerous. And I was like, oh no, these poor guys, their first
blizzard.
Year, going to be a disaster. It was insane. It was the best convention ever. People were coming out, and every single person who came to the booth, I was like, you've got a story about how you got here today, and I want to hear it. And they were like, you don't even know. Oh, I had to pay a guy $50 to just drive me another couple miles, and then I walked the rest of it. It was awesome. It was so incredible.
And there's a situation, I know Mary's internet's being spotty, so I don't know if you can hear us or not, Mariana, but that was Mariana and Alessandro came in from Italy for the show.
That's
and all Mariana said was, I want to see snow.